So imagine you're spending like 6 years of your life just meticulously changing every single thing about yourself. I mean, your fingerprints, your accent, the way you walk, literally changing the molecular structure of your DNA.
Right. Just a complete and total overhaul of your identity.
Exactly. And you do all of this just to hide from this terrifying apex predator assassin. You build this whole new life in the shadows, constantly looking over your shoulder.
You're living in just absolute paranoia.
Total paranoia. And then one freezing morning, you realize the absolute worst possible thing, the ruthless assassin you've been hiding from for 6 years, that is actually the only person in the world who can save your life.
It is such a wild hook.
It really is. So today we are taking a deep dive into the incredibly intricate and honestly very dangerous world of Amelia Atwater-Rhodes' Poison Tree.
And it's such a brilliant premise to explore because it immediately forces you to confront the philosophical paradox at the heart of this entire universe.
Right, because the factions here are so entrenched.
Exactly. Like, we know the geopolitical landscape going into this.
Yeah.
You have the Bruja mercenary guilds, right? And they operate on this very strict, almost archaic, blood-soaked meritocracy.
Yeah, it's totally cutthroat.
It is. And then you have the Mistari, which are these tiger shapeshifters, and they are bound by this ruthless autocracy. Power is everything to them.
And then on the flip side, you have SingleEarth.
Yes. SingleEarth was built to basically be the antidote to all of that violence. It's this massive, wealthy, international sanctuary organization that promises, like, progressive, egalitarian peace.
Right.
But what Poison Tree does is it takes all these massive opposing factions and just throws them into a pressure cooker at SingleEarth Haven number 4. It really exposes the fatal flaws in every single one of these ideologies.
Because if you look closely at SingleEarth, it isn't just a sanctuary, right? It operates on a foundation of what I can really only describe as radical, almost toxic positivity.
Oh, absolutely. Toxic positivity is the perfect way to phrase it.
Like, they have this idea that if you just cross their borders, your past sins are completely expunged, just wiped clean. But our mission for today's deep dive is to unpack what happens when the monsters you thought you left behind, well, they know exactly where you sleep.
They absolutely do.
So we are going to look at how these characters try to forge new identities in a world fundamentally built on ancient violence, and why changing your geography doesn't actually rewrite your history.
No, it really doesn't. And to understand that vulnerability, we have to start by analyzing the illusion of sanctuary itself. And the author just gives us this absolute masterclass in this illusion right off the bat.
During the job interview.
Yes, the job interview.
I love this opening so much because it feels so mundane at first. It's just a standard corporate job interview. But then you look at who is actually on the hiring committee.
Right, it's not your standard HR department.
Not at all. You've got Diana Smoke, who is the Mortal Witch CEO. And then you have Lindsay, who she looks like this sweet, innocent 14-year-old girl in a cardigan.
Yeah, just sitting there looking completely harmless.
Completely harmless. But she is actually this ancient tryst witch who has been alive for over a millennium.
I actually want to pause on Lindsay's, what they call her veiling, for a second. Because understanding how she hides her true nature is just critical to understanding the magic system here.
Oh, for sure. Go for it.
So veiling isn't just like a simple illusion or a glamour. It's not just a trick of the light. The text implies this deep mechanical suppression of a magical aura.
Right.
Think of it like active noise cancellation for the soul.
Oh, I like that. Active noise cancellation.
Yeah, because she isn't just turning down the volume of her 1,000-year-old magical footprint. She is actively, continuously broadcasting a perfectly calibrated counter-frequency of innocence and youth to cancel out her ancient power.
Wow.
It requires immense, continuous psychological control just to sit in that room and look like a teenager.
That active noise cancellation analogy is perfect because she's putting in so much work just to exist there. And sitting right next to this ancient powerhouse is Jason, who is a vampire, and Sarik, this 22-year-old tiger shapeshifter who acts as the Haven's mediator.
Right.
Now, if you just glance at this room, it looks like a beautiful, diverse utopia, everyone getting along. But look at the behavioral mechanics happening. Jason is fetching everyone their preferred coffees and herbal teas before they even have to ask.
And that presents his extreme politeness, right? Like
Yeah.
he's just a really good host.
Yeah, like he's just the nice guy in the office.
But when you apply the psychological lens that the text gives us, it's actually horrifying. Jason is a recovering victim of this terrifying vampire master named Maya.
And Maya is just brutal.
Completely brutal. For years, failing to anticipate Maya's exact desires meant enduring agonizing physical torture in a dark cellar. So his hypervigilance, his desperate need to serve the room and make sure everyone has their coffee just right, that is a trauma response. It's perfectly masquerading as hospitality. SingleEarth hasn't cured his trauma at all.
No, they haven't. They've just given him a polite corporate outlet for it.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the actual interviewee, Alysia Marks. She's human, currently working in SingleEarth's IT department, but her file is just, I mean, it's a parade of red flags.
So many red flags.
She's got Grand Theft Auto, hacking, a massive juvenile arrest record. And she's being interviewed for a crisis mediator role because she recently talked down an armed hostage taker at a coffee shop.
Right. Which sounds heroic on paper.
It does.
Yeah.
But during the interview, Sarik directly accuses Alysia of being manipulative. And Alysia doesn't even try to deny it. She just gives this half shrug and basically says, yeah, if a guy's waving a fillet knife and a gun, I'm absolutely going to manipulate his psychology to get everyone out alive.
She just owns it. And Diana Smoke, the CEO, fully validates Alicia's response. This is the core philosophy of SingleEarth laid bare right here.
Yeah.
They operate on the premise that sometimes you need a wolf to guard the sheep. They fundamentally believe that Alicia's dark past makes her the perfect candidate to handle crisis situations because she understands the psychology of violence without being bound by it.
Okay, I have to push back on Diana Smoke's leadership here.
Oh, please do.
I mean, I get the philosophy in theory, but practically speaking, it feels like hiring a former cartel enforcer to run human resources at a meditation retreat.
That is a very accurate comparison.
Right. Like, is SingleEarth genuinely giving people second chances, or are they just willfully ignorant to the massive security risks they are importing into their sanctuary? Because Sarik's internal alarm bells are just screaming during this interview.
She knows something is off.
She completely senses that Alysia is entirely too comfortable in a life or death crisis.
And your cartel analogy is actually much closer to the truth than Diana Smoke realizes.
Yeah.
Sarik's paranoia, which, we later learn, is rooted in her own deeply hidden trauma. It actually drives her to violate Haven Protocol.
Yeah, she totally crosses a line.
She does. After Alysia moves into the Haven, Sarik breaks into her room. She bypasses all the standard corporate security and opens Alysia's seemingly innocent trunk.
And the visual layering in this scene is so cinematic because on top, Sarik finds exactly what you'd expect from a 20-something IT worker, right?
Yeah, just normal stuff.
Sweaters, casual clothes, framed family photos. There's a picture of Alicia's mom in Paris, her dad in Key West. It is this perfectly constructed diorama of a normal, well-adjusted human life.
But Sarik doesn't buy the diorama for a second. She pushes the sweaters aside and discovers a false bottom in the trunk.
And what's under there is wild.
Oh, it changes everything. Underneath this veneer of wholesome humanity is a highly specialized, incredibly lethal cache of weapons. We're talking about an onyx crossbow with collapsed arms.
Jeez.
3 slender, magnetically balanced metal stakes that are adapted specifically for close-quarters supernatural combat, and a set of perfectly weighted daggers.
Wait, my first instinct reading that was like, okay, SingleEarth's background check failed spectacularly, and they literally just hired a sleeper agent.
Right. But is it possible Alysia brought them defensively, like some kind of lethal safety blanket? Because if she really is a sleeper agent, bringing fully identifiable Bruja rank weapons into a SingleEarth haven seems incredibly sloppy for a professional.
See, that's a very astute point, and it's the exact analytical pivot that Sarik fails to make in that moment. Sarik immediately recognizes the gold lettering and the craftsmanship on the weapons.
They aren't just generic weapons.
No, these aren't just black market knockoffs. They are official rank weapons from the Bruja mercenary guilds. To possess these, Alysia can't just be some clever IT girl with a juvenile record. She has to be a highly trained, elite assassin who has achieved significant rank within the most dangerous syndicate on the planet.
So the violence of Alicia's old world is sitting right there, physically hidden beneath her sweaters, right in the middle of Haven number 4.
Exactly.
But this philosophy of, forgiving the past creates this massive security vulnerability.
Yeah.
When you invite predators into a sanctuary and just politely ask them not to bite, you're relying entirely on an honor system. And honor systems don't work with mercenaries.
They really don't. And we see the deadly flaw in that honor system the moment the sun goes down and the sleet starts.
Yeah, the transition in the text from the warm psychological tension of the interview to this sudden visceral violence is incredibly jarring. It's before dawn. The temperature's freezing, sleet is pouring down, visibility is near zero.
It's miserable weather.
Truly miserable. And Jason is restless because the Haven's internet network is acting up, so he's walking the grounds. He runs into Alysia and this mortal tech guy named Ben, who's called in to fix a massive computer virus. And they are joined by a shapeshifter named Israel.
And out of the freezing dark, bam, just like that. 3 people are taken down by crossbow bolts in a matter of seconds.
It's so fast.
Israel is hit in the hand, Ben is hit in the leg, and Jason is hit directly in the abdomen. But the bolt that hits Jason isn't just steel, it's a black Brugia bolt laced with firestone.
Okay, we need to unpack the mechanics of firestone because it is not just a standard poison.
No, it's way worse.
It is a highly unstable, magically synthesized mineral, and it's crafted exclusively by Tris D witches. For a vampire like Jason, whose entire biology is held together by dark magic, firestone acts like a localized EMP combined with rapid necrotizing fasciitis.
Wait, so it just completely shuts his system down?
Exactly. It immediately neutralizes his internal magic, burns through his vascular system like literal lava, and triggers total physiological collapse.
And it forces him to mentally regress, too. The text gives us this horrifying look into his consciousness. He is instantly transported back to the dark cellar of his former master, Maya.
The trauma just floods back.
Yeah, the physical agony mimics the torture he endured for years. He forgets where he is. He can barely even remember his own name.
And in the middle of this chaotic, freezing fray, look at who takes command. Alysia, the human IT girl.
Right.
She doesn't panic. She drags them into the cover of the building. She immediately identifies the firestone, which, by the way, is rare knowledge, and does something incredibly dangerous. She rips the barbed bolt out of Jason's stomach.
And then, knowing that the only way to counteract the magical cellular decay of firestone is immediate blood consumption, she pulls this terrified, feral, traumatized vampire to her own throat.
Yeah.
And she just lets him feed on her to heal the damage.
It is a deeply intimate, ridiculously risky move. Alicia's blood is the only anchor pulling Jason back from the brink of total psychological fragmentation.
Yeah.
But from an analytical standpoint, her actions here completely destroy Sarik's theory about her.
Exactly. Because if I'm looking at this tactically, if Alysia is a ruthless Brugia sleeper agent sent to infiltrate the Haven, why on earth would she blow her cover, risk bleeding out in the freezing sleet, and donate her own life force to save a vampire and a random mortal tech guy?
It makes no sense for an assassin.
It completely breaks the behavioral profile.
It does. And this paradox forces the Haven staff to finally abandon their assumptions and actually look at the forensic evidence. When they finally regroup in Lindsay's ritual room, Alysia lays out the 3 black bolts on the table. One has a solid metal tip, one is barbed, and one carries the firestone. Alysia points to the gold lettering on the shafts. It's the unmistakable signature of the Onyx Guild.
And she effectively steps into the role of their tactical consultant right there. She's looking at the trajectory, the weather conditions, the wind shear.
Right. Alysia explains the mechanics of the ambush. Hitting 3 specific moving targets in freezing sleet with near-zero visibility requires a master marksman.
Absolutely.
But here is the crucial deduction she makes. Alysia points out that an Onyx sniper of that caliber does not miss the heart or the aorta unless they specifically want to miss.
Oh, wow.
Yeah? Jason was hit in the stomach. Ben was hit near the femoral artery, but the bolt miraculously missed the artery itself. Israel was hit in the hand.
So it wasn't a botched assassination at all. It was a perfectly executed message.
It was a warning. And the psychological devastation on Haven number 4 is immediate. The fundamental premise of SingleEarth, this idea that geographical distance and progressive ideals can protect you, is just shattered. They realize that their borders mean absolutely nothing to the Brugia.
Jason is physically trembling from the PTSD trigger. Sarik is in a state of absolute panic because she knows Alysia has identical Onyx weapons upstairs. But Alysia realizes something even more specific.
Yeah.
The sniper didn't just use Onyx bolts. They used a firing pattern and a style that Alysia herself used to employ. The message was specifically for her.
Right.
So Alysia makes the call to travel directly to the source of the weapons to find answers. She is going straight to the Onyx Guild Hall. And Sarik, driven by her own desperate paranoia, insists on riding shotgun.
And the contrast between the bright, warm environment of SingleEarth and the architecture of the Onyx Hall is staggering. Alysia and Sarik drive 4 hours to get there. The Guild Hall is an abandoned theater that has been gutted down to its skeleton.
Just a concrete shell.
Exactly. There's absolutely no lighting. The entire structure is maintained in pitch, inky darkness.
I want to talk about the sensory deprivation of that architecture for a second. Because why do apex predators and assassins choose to live in a pitch black, gutted theater? It seems so counterintuitive.
Well, it's an environmental crucible. By forcing themselves to navigate scaffolding and open drops in total darkness, the Bruja hone their non-visual senses.
Oh, I see.
We're talking echolocation, scent tracking, thermal detection. They strip away the human reliance on sight, forcing their supernatural instincts to become their primary interface with the world. It's designed to make anyone who relies on their eyes feel completely, utterly helpless.
Which makes the detail of the red Labrador retriever so surreal.
Oh, I love Ringo.
Right. In the middle of this terrifying pitch-black assassin's lair, there's a dog named Ringo just joyfully thumping his tail on the floor like a percussion instrument. It's this bizarre, almost absurd anchor of normalcy in a den of killers.
It perfectly highlights the cognitive dissonance of the mercenary world. And then, from the darkness of the 80-foot scaffolding, a figure drops down to the floor without making a single sound. This is Christian Denmark.
And if we are talking about complicated reunions, this one is completely off the charts.
Christian is such a fascinating figure. He is the newly minted leader of the Frost Guild, which operates alongside Onyx.
Yeah.
He's also a Triest witch, currently undergoing this brutal, sleep-deprived magical training with his ancient mentor Pandora.
Yeah.
But most importantly for our narrative, he is Alysia's former partner in crime.
And he looks like he's seen a ghost. Because as far as Christian and the rest of the Bruja knew, Alysia has been dead for 2 years.
Right, and we finally get the geopolitical backstory of Alicia's disappearance here, and it exposes the corporate ruthlessness of the Bruja guilds. 2 years ago, the combined leadership of the guilds called Alysia into a private, high-security meeting.
Okay.
They offered her a 7-figure contract to assassinate Christian and make it look like a botched retrieval job.
And Alysia, this woman who just calmly told a SingleEarth CEO that she manipulates hostage takers for fun, looks at the most powerful killers on Earth and tells them to go to hell. She completely refuses to kill her best friend.
And the guild's response to her insubordination wasn't just firing her. They doubled the money and put a massive public bounty on her head.
I mean, let's expand on my earlier analogy. It is the ultimate toxic workplace.
It really is.
You try to hand in your 2 weeks notice because you refuse to murder your coworker, and management's response is to put a $2 million price tag on your severed head.
Just terrible HR policies.
The worst. Alysia realized that she was the one rocking the boat. She was trying to modernize the guilds, pushing them to use technology, bringing them from the Stone Age to the Silicon Age. She knew if she vanished, the old guard would leave Christian alone. So she faked her death and exiled herself to SingleEarth just to protect him.
The psychological tension in this dark theater is palpable. Christian is processing the revelation that Alysia gave up millions of dollars, her career, and her life to protect him. But he's also fiercely defensive because Alysia brought a SingleEarth mediator, Sarik, right into their highly classified inner sanctum.
He plays it incredibly cool, though.
Oh, very cool.
With Sarik standing right there, Christian completely dismisses them. He claims he knows absolutely nothing about the Firestone attack at the Haven and tells them to get out before someone in the darkness decides to collect a bounty on them. He refuses to show any emotional cards while a SingleEarth representative is watching.
It's a masterful display of Bruja's stoicism. But while Alysia is confronting the literal ghosts of her past and the dark shadows of Onyx, we really have to look at what is happening back at the Haven. Because Sarik is about to return to a situation that challenges the very foundation of SingleEarth's philosophy.
Yes, let's pivot to the collateral damage of this violent world. Because while the adult mercenaries are playing 4D chess in abandoned theaters, the real victims are the children. We are introduced to Jet, who is 9 years old, and his little brother Queen, who is 4. They are royal Mastari tiger cubs who have been exiled after a bloody, violent coup overthrew their father, the king. SingleEarth has taken them in as refugees.
But taking a child out of a war zone does not take the war zone out of the child.
Exactly.
The Mastari culture is not just strict. It is a brutal Darwinian autocracy where power is absolute and weakness is literally a death sentence. Jet may be 9 years old chronologically, but psychologically, he is a seasoned prince of a warrior race.
And he absolutely refuses to assimilate into SingleEarth egalitarian society. There's this incredible scene where Jet demands subservience from the Haven's groundskeeper. He treats this adult man like a peasant whose only purpose in the universe is to serve him warm cider and tend to his fireplace.
Sarik tries to intervene. She attempts to explain the core tenets of SingleEarth, that no one eats by rank, that there is a communal cafeteria, that everyone is treated as equals.
And Jet's reaction is wild.
It's chilling. Speaking in their native Mistari language, he formally defers to Sarik's authority because she is older, but he makes it unequivocally clear that he views this equality as a profound insult to his royal bloodline.
Right.
He states he would rather leave the haven and risk starvation in the wilderness than accept charity from people he fundamentally views as weak prey.
If I'm looking at this from a sociological perspective, is this a failure of SingleEarth's philosophy? You know, you can't just hand an apex predator a pamphlet on communal living and expect them to override centuries of genetic and cultural conditioning.
You really can't.
And this culture clash comes to a horrific, violent head in the Haven's parking lot.
Yes. Alysia is packing her car. She realizes that her presence is drawing the Bruja to the haven, and she needs to leave to protect the innocent people there. Suddenly, a vampire named Liam launches a daylight ambush.
And Liam isn't a Bruja. Sarik immediately recognizes the red teardrop earring he wears. It's a brand. He's property of Maya, the exact same ancient sadistic vampire who tortured Jason for years.
Right, and Sarik witnesses the ambush. Instinct takes over. She sheds her human veiling and shifts into her massive, terrifying tiger form. She tackles Liam, pinning the vampire to the asphalt.
She completely has him.
She has the physical advantage, she has the dominant position, but in the exact microsecond where she needs to apply lethal force to crush his throat and save Alysia, Sarik hesitates.
She completely freezes, and we have to ask why. Because for 6 years, she has dedicated every waking second of her life to unlearning the violence of her past. She has repressed her tiger instincts so deeply that when she actually needs them, the psychological block paralyzes her.
It's the physical manifestation of her trauma. And Liam seizes that hesitation. He violently throws Sarik's tiger form off of him, draws a firestone knife, and prepares to execute Alysia.
That's so tense.
It looks like a total failure of SingleEarth's protection. And then the text describes a black and golden blur shooting past Sarik.
It's Jet, the 9-year-old boy. He shifts into his tiger form, launches himself into the fray, and with absolute chilling surgical efficiency, he slaughters the vampire with a makeshift weapon.
The author constructs an incredibly disturbing tableau here. Contrast the idyllic, leafy, peaceful setting of the SingleEarth parking lot with the visceral reality of what just happened.
Yeah.
You have Sarik, the adult protector, stumbling backward, spitting the copper-rot taste of blood out of her mouth, completely traumatized by her failure to act, and standing over the mutilated corpse of a vampire, his 9-year-old Jet. His hands are covered in blood, and he looks incredibly proud.
He practically turns around waiting for a gold star. He looks at a horrified Sarik and states with perfect sociopathic logic, "You hurt him. He would have wanted to kill you. You can't let people live who want to kill you." He perfectly applied the lethal logic of his homeland.
It raises a terrifying psychological realization about child soldiers or victims of generational violence. You can physically remove the child from the war, but if the war is the only thing that kept them alive, trying to strip away their violence is actually stripping away their only coping mechanism.
Wow, yeah.
Jet's violence is his armor.
How do you teach peace to a child whose entire survival has depended on murder? It completely breaks Sarik. She realizes SingleEarth cannot protect these cubs. But ironically, Jet's lethal intervention buys Alysia a temporary window of survival.
Very temporary.
Because the fallout reveals that a new bounty has hit the underworld servers. $500,000 for Alicia's live capture.
The stakes escalate exponentially. Alysia knows she has to run. She flees SingleEarth, hoping to draw the hunters away from the haven. But running only accelerates the inevitable collision between these factions, which sets the stage for the highway ambush, and arguably the most massive narrative pivot of the entire deep dive.
Alysia manages to rendezvous with Christian at a nondescript hotel. Christian is furious, trying to piece together who is coordinating these attacks. He uses his tryst magic to knit the wounds on Alicia's face.
Right.
They get into his car to escape the area, but they don't even make it off the highway. Maya's vampires have laid a highly sophisticated trap.
They use silver stars, essentially magically enhanced caltrops, strewn across the asphalt to blow out Christian's tires. The silver disrupts the ambient magic of the car, setting it spinning violently into a ditch.
It's a brutal crash.
And a close-quarters firefight ensues right there in the freezing mud. Christian steps in front of Alysia to shield her and takes a barbed crossbow bolt incredibly high in the chest.
It nicks his aorta. I mean, for a human or even a standard supernatural creature, that is instant catastrophic exsanguination,
Yeah.
death in seconds.
The only reason Christian survives is his mastery of Tristan magic. He drops into a deep catatonic blood-binding trance.
That sounds intense.
Oh, it is. He uses sheer magical willpower to essentially freeze his vascular system, holding his own blood inside his body to prevent bleeding to death, but it renders him completely incapacitated.
And Alysia is hit in the knee. The bolt completely shatters her kneecap, grinding the bone to powder. Despite agonizing pain, she manages to pull the barbed bolt out of Christian's chest. They limp through the dense forest to a remote gas station.
Just barely surviving.
Exactly. Just as Alysia thinks they might be able to hotwire a car and escape, the vampires detonate the gas station.
The concussive wave of the explosion hits Alysia, slamming her into the pavement. She takes a boot to the head, and everything goes black.
When she regains consciousness, the environment has entirely changed. She is heavily drugged. Her wrists are shackled to a wall high above her head. As her vision clears, she recognizes the scuffed, blood-stained floor.
The worst possible place.
She is back in the Onyx Hall, specifically in a subterranean back room designed explicitly for interrogation and torture. And standing in front of her is Crawl, the terrifying ancient tiger shapeshifter who rules the Onyx Guild with an iron fist.
Now, the reader assumes Crawl is going to interrogate Alysia about the bounties or Bruges corporate politics or her alliance with Christian.
That's what I thought.
But Crawl doesn't ask about any of that. He steps into the light, looks at Alysia, and asks one chilling question. Where is she?
He is asking about his daughter, Sahara, the lost princess of the Onyx Guild.
Alysia, fighting through the drugs and the shattered knee, is genuinely confused. She tells him she has never met Sahara, and chronologically, she is telling the truth. Sahara disappeared 6 years ago, right before Alysia was recruited into Onyx, but Crawl lays out his deductive reasoning. 6 years ago, Sahara vanished on the exact same day Alysia appeared on the mercenary scene, and yesterday, Alysia visited the Onyx Hall for the first time in 2 years, and suddenly, Crawl received a phone call from his long-lost daughter. Crawl believes Alysia is the mastermind who has been hiding his heir.
And here's where the author snaps all the puzzle pieces together with deafening, mind-bending clarity. Sarik, the peaceful, traumatized, cardigan-wearing SingleEarth mediator who is terrified of violence.
Yeah.
She is Sahara, the apex predator princess of the Onyx Guild. Crawl is her father.
It is a stunning revelation that demands we retroactively re-examine everything we thought we knew about Sarik's veiling.
I mean, we really have to marvel at the sheer mechanical and psychological depth of her deception. She didn't just change her name. Let's talk about how shape-shifting veiling works long-term.
It's exhausting.
Usually a shapeshifter uses kinetic magic to hold a form for a few hours. Sarik held a false molecular structure for 6 years. It is the equivalent of a human flexing a heavy muscle without releasing it for half a decade.
Just an unbelievable toll on her body.
She changed her hair color, she compressed her spine to change her posture, she adopted a different accent, she even changed her perfume because she knew Bruges assassins rely on scent tracking. She wove a witness protection suit entirely out of magic, trauma, and sheer desperate willpower.
And when you apply this revelation to the earlier scenes, the psychological tragedy is overwhelming. Remember when Sarik broke into Alysia's trunk and found the Onyx weapons?
Oh, God, yeah.
We thought she was just a paranoid mediator protecting SingleEarth's borders. We were completely wrong.
She was a terrified abuse survivor who looked at those weapons and thought, my father finally found me. He sent an elite assassin to drag me back to hell.
Exactly. She thought Alysia was there to kill her or capture her. That is precisely why Sarik followed Alysia out into the sleet with a loaded crossbow during the first attack.
Wait, really?
Yes. Sarik was planning to shoot Alysia in the back to protect her own secret, but because she was so paralyzed by her trauma, she froze. And because she froze, the real sniper took the shots, and Jason and the tech guy were collateral damage.
Oh, man. The psychological weight on Sarik is crushing. She realizes that her paranoia, her silence, and her desperate need to hide have directly caused innocent people at SingleEarth to be hurt.
And it gets worse.
And now Alysia has been captured and is being physically tortured by Crawl, specifically because of Sarik's secret. Sarik is hyper-aware that SingleEarth, despite all its progressive wealth, cannot go to open war with the Bruza guilds without suffering massive, catastrophic casualties.
The illusion of sanctuary has completely collapsed. Sarik is forced into an impossible corner. To balance the karmic scales, to save SingleEarth from a mercenary war, and to save Alysia from her father's torture chamber, Sarik realizes she has to make the ultimate, horrifying sacrifice.
She has to strip off the witness protection suit and return to the lion's den.
She packs up the young Mistari cubs, Jet and Queen. She knows that as royal tigers, they need the protection of an apex predator, and SingleEarth can no longer provide it. She abandons the haven. Christian, who has barely survived his aortic wound and is holding his physical body together through sheer tristy magic, insists on acting as her escort.
The sequence of Sarik returning to the Onyx Hall is a masterclass in psychological horror and regression. She walks through the doors of the gutted theater. The whispers in the dark start immediately. The assassins in the shadows recognize the scent and the gait of their lost princess. But she doesn't stop. She walks directly to Kral's office.
And this isn't just a corporate office. It is the exact same dark, cave-like room where her father used to beat her to a pulp when she was a child. The environmental triggers are everywhere.
Despite 6 years of distance, healing, therapy, and ideological growth at SingleEarth, the moment Sarik stands before her abuser, the regression is immediate and devastating.
It's heartbreaking to read.
She tries to use the formal, archaic Mistari language to declare that she is forming her own royal tribe with the cubs, attempting to use the laws of his own culture to claim her sovereignty.
But Kral completely bypasses her attempted diplomacy. He doesn't even entertain the conversation. He strikes her with a brutal backhanded blow that sends her flying across the room into Christian. And then he unleashes his claws, tearing her shoulder wide open. He verbally and physically dismantles her. He degrades her, calling her a spoiled, arrogant coward.
He weaponizes her deepest trauma against her.
He really does. He reminds her that 6 years ago she couldn't protect her human sister, Corey, from being murdered, which was the original inciting trauma that caused Sarik to flee the guild in the first place.
It is a systematic, calculated destruction of the identity she built at SingleEarth. Kral orders her back to her old quarters and dismisses her, stating he will deal with her punishment later. Sarik retreats to her childhood bedroom. And the author includes this deeply unsettling detail. The room has been left completely untouched.
Yeah, that detail stuck with me.
The ebony headboard of her bed still bears the deep, jagged claw marks she slashed into the wood years ago in her teenage rage and despair.
The physical environment itself is a cage. She collapses on the bed, her shoulder bleeding, her spirit utterly defeated. And in a final, desperate act of symbiosis, she allows Christian to feed on her magical energy.
Not for pleasure, though.
No, because his body is failing from the crossbow wound, and he needs her ambient power just to have the strength to keep standing guard over her.
It forces us to ask a profoundly uncomfortable question about the nature of her sacrifice. Is it a victory?
That's a tough one.
That is exactly what I want to ask you, the listener. Put yourself in Sarik's position. She saved SingleEarth from a massacre. She secured a temporary, highly dangerous safe haven for the royal cubs. But to do it, she had to surrender her freedom, strip away her hard-won peace, and lock herself back in a literal cage with her abuser. Can you ever truly outrun a monster when the monster is your own father and his violent blood is pumping through your veins?
It's a tragic realization that trauma doesn't just vanish because you changed your zip code and adopted a new philosophy. But while Sarik is willingly locking herself into her childhood prison to save others, the narrative sharply pivots back to Alysia.
Yes. Because Alysia's arc proves that survival in this world requires not just enduring profound pain, but wielding incredible adaptive ingenuity.
Let's go back to the torture room. Alysia is still chained to the wall. Her kneecap is powder, her ribs are bruised, her head is ringing from the explosion, and she is heavily drugged.
Sounds hopeless.
It does. But Kral leaves her alone for a brief moment, because Raven, the volatile leader of the Crimson Mercenary Guild, literally bursts into the Onyx Hall to scream at Kral for blowing up her operatives and destroying a gas station in her territory.
That distraction, that brief moment of bureaucratic mercenary infighting, provides Alysia with a microscopic window of opportunity. Kral leaves the heavy iron door unlocked. Alysia realizes she cannot rely on magic or brute strength.
Right, she has to be smart.
Instead, she uses a visceral evolutionary trick she's honed over years as an escape artist. She physically forces her double-jointed thumb out of its socket, dislocating the bone to slip her hand out of the iron shackle.
I physically winced reading that description.
She just pops her thumb out of joint. The pain causes her to collapse to the bloodstained floor, but she drives herself up, uses a discarded bow staff as a makeshift clutch, and hobbles out into the freezing night. She manages to hotwire a beat-up Jeep in the parking lot and drives herself through the pain to a Crimson safe house that Raven had secretly arranged.
What is truly remarkable here is Alysia's strategic resilience. She wakes up the next day in the safe house to find that a Crimson Witch has used magic to perfectly heal her shattered knee, leaving nothing but a shiny new scar.
Incredible.
Now look at her options. She could run back to the safety of SingleEarth and hide. She could demand that Raven help her exact bloody revenge on Kral, but she does neither. Instead, she limps straight to the Frost Guild Hall to check the digital job boards.
I love this concluding sequence so much because of the sheer tonal shift. The Frost Guild Hall isn't an abandoned theater. It is hidden beneath 4 completely normal, mundane suburban homes. Alysia walks into the underground complex and discovers that the technological upgrade she had been aggressively lobbying for 2 years ago has finally been implemented.
The dingy bulletin boards are gone.
Replaced by a massive state-of-the-art interactive digital whiteboard.
She picks up the digital pen and types a message to the anonymous system operator, asking if the new guild leader, Christian, was the one who finally installed the tech.
And the operator sends back a meme.
I love this part.
On this highly classified supernatural mercenary server, a picture of a kitten tangled in computer wires pops up with the caption in bold font, "Which one controls the ether tubes?"
Amazing.
The operator proceeds to tell Alysia that Christian, the terrifying ancient Tristy witch who can stop his own blood from flowing with his mind, accidentally locked himself in a server room for 3 hours the previous day because he couldn't figure out how to use the new computer system.
It's a moment of brilliant levity, absolutely. But from an analytical perspective, it perfectly encapsulates Alysia's true asymmetric advantage in this supernatural arms race.
Exactly. Think about the juxtaposition the author is drawing here. You have these ancient, terrifying, immortal beings like Kral, Maya, and even Christian. They can rip out throats, they can heal fatal wounds with ancient magic, they can track a scent through a sleet storm.
But they can't use a computer.
But they are completely, utterly defeated by a software update. Alysia realizes that her true power isn't just in her ability to fire an onyx crossbow or fight vampires in the freezing mud. Her power is that she fundamentally understands the Silicon Age of mercenary work.
She understands data, encryption, and digital leverage, while the rest of these apex predators are functionally stuck in the Stone Age.
That is the ultimate leverage. She doesn't need to match crawl claw for claw or strength for strength. She logs into the system, asks the operator for a Nero 0B level retrieval job, and selects a low-stakes contract to recover a stolen painting.
She is systematically setting herself up to rebuild her life and her power base on her own terms, in a digital frontier where her ancient, analog enemies cannot even begin to touch her.
Which perfectly sets up the thematic synthesis of this narrative. As we pull all of these intricate threads together, the veiling, the trauma, the politics, the magic, the core message of Poison Tree becomes incredibly sharp.
Yeah.
This is a universe that definitively proves that changing your name, altering your aura, and retreating to a peaceful, wealthy commune is simply not enough to erase your history.
Because true sanctuary, as the text repeatedly demonstrates, isn't a physical place you can move to. It isn't a geographic location in Massachusetts, and it isn't an organization's mission statement. Sanctuary is a boundary.
And it is a boundary that you have to continuously, actively fight to defend.
Integration of your past, rather than the erasure of it, is the only path forward.
Look at our two protagonists. Sarik survives by finally turning around and confronting the abusive father she fled from. She stops hiding and uses the archaic laws of his own brutal culture against him to protect the next generation.
And Alysia survives, not by pretending to be a normal IT girl, but by fully embracing her skills and adapting to a technological future her enemies cannot comprehend.
You cannot erase the violence of the past, but you can learn to wield it as a tool for your own survival.
That's beautifully said.
And I want to connect this directly back to you, the listener, because you might not be dodging Firestone crossbow bolts in the pre-dawn sleet or trying to hide your identity from ancient tiger kings, but we all have past versions of ourselves that we desperately try to outrun.
We all do.
We all have trauma or mistakes or toxic environments that we think we've escaped just by moving to a new city or changing our jobs. But the underlying question the story asks is, when that past inevitably tracks you down, do you hide in the dark and hope it passes? Or do you turn around, face it, and leverage everything you've learned to defeat it?
And as you ponder how you might answer that in your own life, I want to leave you with one final lingering thought built on the very end of our source material. Think back to Jed, the 9-year-old Mistari prince.
Okay.
When Sarik brings him before Kral in the Onyx Hall, the young cub deliberately meets the ancient, terrifying tiger's gaze. He bows his head out of tactical survival, but he absolutely refuses to drop to his knees.
Wow.
In a world where immortality is real and grudges literally last for centuries, what happens when the traumatized, violent children of today become the apex predators of tomorrow? Are we just watching the cycle of violence pause for a generation, or is it merely reloading?
Remember that peaceful woodland campus where we started, the one with the hazelnut coffee and the quiet pine trees? It only takes one black crossbow bolt to shatter the illusion. Keep questioning the stories beneath the surface and keep facing the shadows. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.